Hi.
Hi, there you are. Welcome,
See
welcome.
you. Yeah, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Very well.
All right. So I just wanted to say welcome to everyone who's on the call. Thank you for being here. Welcome to Studio B. My name is Marije Paternotte. I'm one of Studio B's mindfulness facilitators. Mindfulness, something that we all could use right now, and Studio B is offering expertly crafted mindfulness trainings to executives, management teams, um, mostly online, of course, right now, and hopefully soon in the office again. So we're teaching to both corporate companies, nonprofits, and individual executives. Really happy to have Elena Brower here with us today. And just as a reminder for all of you, this interview is recorded. So if you need to go somewhere else halfway, you'll be able to watch it later. And I also wanted to let you know that I'll leave some time for your questions at the end. So if I haven't asked what you want to know, then it will be your turn at the end. So with that, let me first introduce our guest. Elena is a mama. I love that you put that at the beginning of your.
It's first.
Yeah, a mama, a teacher, an author, a speaker, a double diamond leader with doTERRA. She has taught yoga and meditation since 1999. Her first book, Gorgeous, The Art of
Oh, you
Zen,
have it.
I have it, of course, has
Bless
been
you.
translated in 7 languages.
Mm.
So her second book, almost more gorgeous if possible, with lots of pretty pictures, is a bestseller on Sounds True, and a new book is due to come out at the beginning of 2021.
Yes.
And Elena created a course called Simplify, which is beloved by many for bringing analog creativity to online learning. You can practice with her on glow.com and listen to her podcast, Practice You, on practiceyou.com. Thank you and welcome, Elena. I'm so glad you're here. For
Thank
me,
you
you
so much.
really are one of the most authentic, generous, and transparent teachers and leaders I know. So I'm
Mm.
very honored to have this conversation with you today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's really nice to be here with you guys.
Great. So I'd love to hear, how was your morning? What did you do so far?
Great. Let's see. I slept in a bit until about 7:30, which was very luxurious. According to my Aura ring, I was in bed for almost 9 hours, which is a coup for me. Um, I had a very rare occurrence. I don't do this except maybe 2 or 3 times a year, and this was actually my fourth time ever. I had a reading with we'll call him a seer in the UK. I like to talk to him now because my mom passed away 6 years ago, and she always comes through and she always says something that nobody else would know to prove to me that it's really her. I really am not like this. If you knew me well, I don't talk like this. Like, this is top of mind, but I speak to Sean maybe once a quarter. And it's always very comforting, and I feel like complete hearing from my mom.
Of
So it's
course.
always very sweet. And after that, I actually had a training session. I have a trainer 3 times a week, and I work with him virtually. We do all body weight except for one of my son's lunch bags, which I filled up with 2 pound weights, 3 pound ankle weights, and a huge crystal. And I use that for weight right now until the kettlebells come. It's hilarious. But I have found that as I get older, it's very, very important to do weight bearing exercise that really is founded on mechanic, structural principles, and it feels so good. And I'm on day 6 of the milk cleanse.
Mhm. I
I'm
saw
typically
that.
dairy free, friends. So this was a stretch for me, but I've done it now. I think this is my fourth time. I cannot tell you how good I feel by this day. I feel so clear in my mind, my skin, my hair, my nails. It's a cleanse that I did initially for parasites, but now I just do it for maintenance 4 times a year. Themilkcleanse.com. It's so
By the
good.
look of it, it works because you look so radiant.
Completely. No, no, completely. I promise you that at the early part of this week, I wasn't as bright feeling inside, not even just looking, as I am now. I recommend that highly. And it's not something that I sell. It's my best friend who started it many, many years ago with Dr. Linda Lancaster, who's a naturopathic doctor and a homeopathy. She's incredible, and they created the milk cleanse for folks with, symptoms from tick-borne illnesses, all kinds of parasitic infection. It's really so efficient. And this is again day 6, so I feel, very sprightly today. Very excited to talk.
I'm glad we
Feel like
didn't
I'm
have
having
this interview
coffee.
earlier in the week then.
Yeah, I have only 2 more days to go, and then on tomorrow, Saturday, I'll go to the farmer's market and start to collect all the veggies to cook on Monday. Can't wait.
Great.
Oh, can't wait.
Sounds like a really nice morning. So do you usually do you have a routine in the morning? Is there something you do every day except when you have your
Yeah, sure.
actual meetings like this?
Every day before I do anything else, I go outside. When the weather's nice, I go outside to the mountain, to the patio that faces the mountain, and I sit for half an hour meditation. I now, you could ask me what kind of meditation I practice. Now it's pretty much Zen meditation. Like that's pretty much it.
Great.
I've studied Tantra for almost 20 years and on and off dabbling with Roshi Joan Halifax, taking her things and seeing her whenever I could. And now I moved here, and here's the rub. I thought she was in California for some reason. I think that's where she started.
Mhm.
I had no idea. I moved to this house in early July after being in Santa Fe since March. She's over the mountain that I look at,
Oh, wow.
super close, like a mile away. And so now I've decided as I turn 50 that I want a woman teacher and I want to study with Roshi Joan. I like Zen meditation. There's a simplicity to it. And my tantric teachers would have many arguments as to why, it's not exactly, but I love sitting and thinking about the benefit that my little practice might possibly bring to somebody else.
Mhm.
And that's one of the basic tenets, one of the sort of, I don't know, steps, pillars of Zen meditation. And I really appreciate how clear cut it is.
Yeah, I agree. And I love that. And that's what I do every time I teach. I always offer up the practice to the benefit of all, because in the end, that's what we're practicing for, right?
Yeah, it wasn't top of mind for me until I started working with that. And I now it's like, oh, I got it. I really appreciate it. I'm finally old enough, to get it. I get it.
So you're not that much practicing yoga every day anymore?
No, no, I practice yoga every day.
You do. I
Yeah.
mean, in terms of
And that is
asana.
right there. I just rolled it up this second before we got on the call. Yeah, no, that's every day. You can't be 50 years old and not move. You
Right?
can't. It's stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta move. You gotta move every day. I found more than anything, the yoga, even if it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes, but typically I do like 20 to 40, sometimes longer. Um, it changes my mind by opening up all the channels. It's just channels. I'm a fan of TCM. I get acupuncture at least every other week, sometimes once a week. And without that yoga, I don't know. I have no idea where I would be. My body is super healthy, and I feel like that is a key component.
Yeah, I know. I feel the same way. And I also, it's so nice to hear you say, 20, 30 minutes. I feel the same way. I used to have this idea that, oh, I have to practice for an hour and a half every day. Otherwise, it doesn't count. And it's like,
No, no.
who has time for that?
I
And,
mean, some people do. Some people
right.
do. And some
I,
people make the time, and I hats off. But I like to just work for a little while, and then I'll roll my mat up, and sometimes I'll take it out again later in the day. I have a stack of all the restorative and yin poses that I love. I leave that right near my desk. So at the end of the day, I unroll my mat. I'll do some yin. I'll do some restorative poses. I'll listen to a podcast. I'm finally learning how to actually take care of myself.
Great. So speaking of taking care of yourself, what brought you initially to yoga? Was that also coming from an idea that you needed to take care of yourself, or was
No,
there
I just was in love with my boyfriend, and his mom wanted to take me to a class. So,
a great reason?
yeah, I was actually a ballet dancer, and I didn't care for anything else. I was like good where I was, and taking ballet a couple times a week at lunchtime from my office. I was super happy. She was like, "Come to yoga," and I was like, "Oh God, yoga, whatever." I didn't know anything about it. And when I went, and the teacher, her name was Michelle, and she was so lovely, and she just welcomed. That was her whole practice. It was welcoming, and I got it. I was like, whoa, that's different than my Russian ballet
Mhm.
teacher, screaming in Russian at me.
Yeah.
It's different.
But then eventually something must have changed because you started teaching.
Yeah. That was probably, gosh, almost 6 years later. I had worked in fashion that whole time and moved to Italy, and I was designing clothing, and I realized that I didn't want to be doing that anymore. I felt the monotony of it and the lack of uh, personal connection.
Mhm.
I would make personal connections with the seamstresses and with my boss and, a few other people, but there just wasn't what we get to do as yoga teachers. There wasn't that. So I stopped that, and I came home and I applied for a year long post grad child art education program at Parsons, the new school. And did that. And midway through that year, I met Cindy Lee in a yoga class at Crunch Gym.
Of all places.
And that was she became my first proper teacher training. Even though I had many teachers prior to that, I was studying with Alan Finger at Ishta. At the time, it was Yoga Zone. Remember that?
Yeah.
And all of his teachers there. And then after meeting Cindy, I took her teacher training in 98, I think it was, 97. And that was it. I was like set. I started teaching right away. I taught at her studio, for a couple of years. And then I wasn't really teaching the Tibetan Buddhist sort of flow the infusion that she wanted me to teach, which was completely understandable. So I left and started out on my own at another like independent place over on Third Avenue and 17th Street, and that became kind of a jumping off point. I met a really fantastic guy there who he's now one of my dear friends. He ended up writing a business plan and helping me formulate the idea for what became Vira Yoga, which was alive for almost 12 years in New York in Soho.
Yeah, so amazing. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember going there, all the little hallways to go through and find
Right.
your way. It's so amazing. Um, and so when I was listening to your podcast, I realized how.
Which episode?
I'm sorry.
Which episode did you
Well,
listen
I
to?
listened to them all, but I was listening especially to your intro, and I realized, and you say it so well, so because you have such beautiful voice, but you say together we'll explore and enjoy content and conversations about mastering transitions.
Yeah.
So I was wondering
Yeah.
how do you feel like you have mastered transitions?
You know, to the most extent, I actually have. I feel really good about who I am when things change.
Mhm.
Uh, Over the last several months, we left New York in early March. We have, all three of us have lung frailty, let's say.
Yeah.
Nothing serious, but like enough that we were like, maybe it's a good idea to get somewhere where there aren't such a number of people
Mhm.
and so many sort of energetic sensitivities, let's say.
Right.
And so we came to Santa Fe thinking we would stay for, I don't know, a month or two. And then we just fell in love with it here. But that whole time, I think between my partner, my son, and I, and my son's dad, who's around often, he comes and visits at least once a month. I think we had like three fights, maybe two. And I used to be a very volatile person. My family was a pretty, there was a lot of temper happening in my family as a kid, and all that's under the bridge. Forgiven, awesome, love my parents. Um, but I've mastered the art of staying with myself when things around me are changing really rapidly and drastically. And that's kind of the biggest gift I think we can give to ourselves and to the people around us.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's something you feel like right now is coming more easily to you. Did you also feel that when you made the transition from closing Vira Yoga to starting to teach at special events, retreats, even online? How was that transition? Do you feel that you were as masterful at the transition then as you feel now?
I don't think I would call myself masterful. I would just say that I'm in a practice of getting good at it.
Right.
At that point, I was already teaching online. I've been teaching online for 10 years with glow.com. So there was no real transition there. I was just continuing to do what I was doing. Vera came to an end. I didn't feel any difficulty at that time. It was sad, sure, to say goodbye to everybody and to not be coming together every week the way that we were. But it had come to its end. And it was the masterful part there was just seeing that it was over. I think if you're watching this and you're looking for some relevance for yourself, like how masterful can you be at letting something go that is no longer serving or belonging to you?
Yeah. So it was more like a natural transition from something that was already coming to an end.
For me, yes.
Yeah.
And there were all sorts of varieties of factors, everything from financial to emotional to it was just over.
Mhm. Right. And so when you wrote The Art of Attention, you must have had a specific idea or what that meant to you at that time. Is that meaning still the same for you now? And what was it then? What is it now? Is it
Let's see. Art of Attention came to pass because Erica Jago, who's my co author, came to me with an idea to create something together. And that's what arose out of that ask. She's a super, super gifted artist and designer and teacher. Her latest book is called Angelus, Angelus. And if you are curious about Art of Attention, Angelus is absolutely something you will love. It's reminiscent and in a really nice way. But Art of Attention, that's always meant the same thing. That's the first name for any business that I ever had. Um, and it basically points to your attention as your primary currency. You could have as much money in the world, but if you don't know how to pay attention, there's not much that you can do. If you know how to pay attention, gosh, there's limitless opportunity for you, limitless potential. When you know how to pay attention, there is a quality that you give in your interactions, your relations, that is unparalleled. People really appreciate it. They will open up. for you. They will open doors for you. It's not, I'm not saying be attentive and be duplicitous to get stuff.
Right.
I'm saying be attentive and watch what happens. That's all.
Right. And so is for you being attentive, um, moving on from there, just being really present with people as a part of that art.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I love you. I remember you said a couple of weeks ago how uh, compassion is actually being fully present. And I love how that sums up basically the traditional Buddhist teachings around mindfulness and compassion. The Buddha teaches about compassion as one of our most important virtues, and it sounds as something that is so unattainable, and yet it's so simple. So
Yeah.
I guess the difficulty really is in the simplicity of being present and um, paying attention. Right, it's great. And so to ask you a more personal question, you've been sober for 6 years now, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, which is amazing.
6 years in October.
Do you feel that because you had the tools that you've learned from your yoga practice, your meditation practice, that it made it somehow easier? Because I can imagine that it was not easy at all, but that it somehow made it easier for you to make that transition. Did your practice help in that at all?
No, no, I wouldn't say.
No.
I mean, it gave context for how the time would be used, but I ended up using the time that I used to get high around 9 to 10, 10:30 a.m. Um, I use that for art instead and for my business eventually. And I was able to, create a rampantly successful business in the time that I used to spend getting high on my roof.
Right.
Yeah. So, but, practice provides this steady hum of context for everything that I do. So I
Right.
wouldn't say it helped, but it definitely didn't hurt.
Right. And how beautiful too that you have that that ability to create this beautiful art, which in a way is in itself um, the true expression of being present and attentive, right? I mean,
And high. That's the fun part. Making art makes me totally high. I
yeah,
love it so much.
but in a better way, right?
Of course.
Yeah, yeah, that's so amazing. And so your transition now from having been in the city for so long and now being out in New Mexico and having this gorgeous view. Um, do you feel that that's also an expression of you being more attentive to what does really serve me here? What nourishes me instead of just staying in one place because, well, this is just what I do and this is convenient and you know all the reasons you can think of why you would stay in a place.
I don't know that either place is the right place or the wrong place. I think it was just the season.
Mm.
The page turned, the chapter changed, and here we are.
Right. It was a little bit like with your yoga studio, it naturally came to an end, and so did the time that you lived in the city.
Yeah, for sure. My
Yeah.
boyfriend was raised there. He grew up from the moment he was born there.
Mm.
So for him, it was a huge transition. And for me, it was just like, it was just time.
Right.
And now he's really psyched. He's really grateful and happy and, you know, um, thankful, that we did it.
Yeah. Do you feel that life is simpler outside of the city?
For sure. It's a lot of gardening. My nails are filthy and strong. I've got plants all over the place and a garden outside, and I spend a good amount of time every day just tending and pruning and drying my leaves for the winter for tea. I'm just like having the best time.
I move there too. It sounds awesome.
It's anywhere where you can just be outside more and
Sure.
be in connection with nature and grow some of your own food, if not all. It's just my next investment, I think, is going to be a greenhouse so I can start growing, rows of everything that I love to eat.
That's in
Seems so,
itself a mindfulness practice, just to attend to growing plants and being with the earth.
yeah.
And so in with regard to that more simpler life and the simplified course that you've created, which you created while you were still in the city,
Yeah.
um, what would you offer to people if, wherever they are, no matter if that's in the middle of the city or not, what would be your top three ways to simplify life?
So first, I would say look at your schedule and let what's on there tell you what you've been prioritizing, and consider what could be perhaps reprioritized.
Mhm.
A lot of assumptions live in your schedule. Have to do this, I have to do that. Check and verify. That's all. The second would be I would say look for what makes you feel like you are in flow. You've got a few friends who do, you've got a few activities that do, and then you've got a bunch of stuff that doesn't. And by flow, I don't mean like flow. I don't mean it like that. I mean what feels like your body is humming along like a machine that works, doing what it loves.
What
So
makes
that
your
would
heart,
be two. Mm,
what makes your heart sing?
sure, totally. But it's physical too. It's structural. As you listening to your body, when your body is happy doing what you're doing. And then lastly, there's an amount of courage that it takes to recalibrate, redesign your life, and indeed to simplify it and to practice the courage, just like I practice being kind when things are changing in my house. um, Practicing being courageous is it comes with time, and that courage lends itself to everything that you do. And to focus on it a little bit is to create of your life and your surroundings, the people around you, even a very brave, happy environment. And I think that there's not enough sort of connection to the concept of courage.
Mhm.
There's all this other stuff that we think about, but how often do you think about I'm going to be brave right now and I'm going to make this phone call that I'm afraid to make. I'm going to be brave right now and I'm going to say this thing that I'm afraid to say. That I think would be the third sort of consideration or contemplation. Like think about where that comes into your life and think about where you can bring it in a little more surely.
I also feel that it takes a lot of courage to look at your schedule and to decide that there may be things on there that could go.
Did
And,
you find that when you were doing the course?
um, I have been looking at that already before. Uh,
Mm.
I did the course, because during in my previous life as a corporate lawyer, I lived by a schedule that wasn't, designed by myself. So that was I already moved out of that when I moved into, becoming a teacher and all that. Um, and I also realized that, for me and for many other people, that there is this identification with being busy. Like it's a good thing to be busy. And people actually, when you ask how you're doing, they're like, I'm so busy. Well, that's not how you're doing. That's what that's what you choose to make yourself do, but that's not like your state of being. And so I definitely know for myself, and I think that's true for many people, that it also requires some courage to ask yourself this question, like, okay, so who am I if I'm not that person who's always busy? So what is left? And I certainly also, in the time when I was already teaching,
Yeah.
and I had days where I may have, I was maybe teaching one class and didn't have much else going on, that I kept, you know, trying to come up with things to do to feel productive.
Right.
And that's definitely something I've learned, that I don't have to do that. It's also fine to
Yeah.
have space in
Yeah.
a day to just let the unknown unfold, whatever that brings. And that definitely requires courage, I feel.
How old are you now?
46.
Yeah. Right around now, I feel is when I was like, all right, I'm good. I'll take a nap.
Right. That's exactly what I do now.
I don't care what anyone else thinks or whatever. I just do what I want now.
Yeah,
And I think that does come with age.
yeah, yeah. I actually was very proud of myself. One of my team members asked me if I could do something next week. And my
Hmm.
answer was no, I'm taking a break next week.
Oh,
Well,
good.
last year, I would never have said that. I would have just
Very good.
wiggled that meeting into the days that I had planned off. And
Very
I'm
good.
like, no. So I
Great.
definitely feel like I've learned some of that boldness from you. So thank you for that.
You're most welcome.
Yeah. So now you're there in your beautiful new place. Do you have any ideas about the future? Do you think about that at all, or do you just not think in those terms?
Tell me more. What do you
Well,
ask?
so here, where I'm coming from is like, um, so you moved from the city into, the more countryside. I also know that you've been very active, um, educating yourself on the racial injustice problem that is so apparent in this country right now. So I'm also wondering, how is your transition to this new place also bringing you into other areas in your life where you're going to spend more time? How do you envision, in an extension of that, our country to go forward with all this? And I know that's kind of a big question, but that was the thought behind um, my first question.
I see. So you're not asking about my personal future. You're asking about how I see the future of our country, of the US.
Oh, so how do you see your personal future in relation to what's going on in this country, and
Well,
how?
we only have 9 minutes left. So I will say that for my own future, I'm going to be making a lot of art, taking care of my kid, doing everything I can to make it super fun and adventurous for all of us outside as much as possible. For the involvement that I would like to have as an activist, my plan is to continue to educate myself and use my platforms to continue to not only center, not only feature, but make the norm the people who inspire me in my life of color who should have more of a presence in white spaces.
Mhm.
I'm sick and tired of the whiteness of white spaces. And so I'm going to do everything I can to change that. And that has been my practice, ever since Mr. Floyd was murdered. And I will not be stopping. I've watched a lot of my colleagues, bless them, be in it for a little while and then back to business, back to normal, whatever they do. And for me, I'm going to continue. I see my social media feeds as my sort of vision board, and I will keep continuing to share the women, especially the women of color whom I love, who have inspired me, moved me, shaped me. I will continue to edify myself and others through the podcast. You can look there. So many different women of color who I see. Thinkers, teachers, and creators, friends. That's my plan for the near future. That will probably shift and change. I'm here in Native land, Native American land, Navajo land. So I'm learning about the ways in which I can involve myself. For many years, I've had a fundraiser, an ongoing fundraiser with a nonprofit org called Dig Deep. And if you look at my Instagram feed and you click on the link in the profile, lenabrower.com/Instagram, you will see that there. And we've raised a few $1,000s. And what we're doing is getting running water into homes on the Navajo land. People who don't have running water in their homes in 2020 within 100 miles of here. So that was my obsession way before I ever thought about moving here. Before I even knew where that land was, honestly. So yeah, that's sort of where I stand. I'm definitely committed to getting Trump out of office. I make calls almost every day now to at least 5 to 10 households in Arizona, directly to the House, through an organization that the Biden campaign hoped to. Hi, my name is Elena Brower. I'm a author calling on behalf of Joseph Biden and Kamala Harris, and we are interested in making sure that you are and ready this year. Like, I am actually, really nice people. I haven't found anyone who hung up on me, but I'm sure it will happen.
Good for you for doing that. Thank you. And do you feel hopeful that change is coming?
I know change is always coming, so there's no hope.
But
Hope is
anytime
not a strategy. Action is a strategy. I know that change is coming, whether it's going to be good or bad. I know where I stand with it, which is I'm going to do everything that I can to make this a tenable world for my kid and for his children.
and you're doing such a beautiful job at it. So I really thank you for everything you do because it's pretty amazing.
Thank you so much.
I have one last question for you before I open it up for anyone else.
Have until 45 after the hour,
Okay.
so that's clear.
So, who or what are you most grateful for in your life and why?
My child, definitely. And for all of the ways in which without him, I don't know that I would be as inspired to be as clear in my work, in my life, in my relations. And because of him, there's a sense of purpose that I'm just not sure if I would have had it without him.
That's beautiful.
Mm.
Hence the mama at the beginning of your bio.
And
At first.
yes,
Yeah, perfect.
I love that kid. I give him tons of worlds of space, but I love him a lot. Oh God, so much.
Beautiful. Thank you for your very candid and authentic answers. And I just wanted to give you all who are listening the opportunity, if there's any question you wanted to ask Elena, you can type it in the chat, or if you feel comfortable, you can unmute yourself and ask her directly. So whatever you feel comfortable with.
Anything?
Okay, I'm seeing someone in the chat
Oh,
here.
Q&A, that's one. Yeah.
Rachel's asking, the yoga world has changed so much since you started teaching. What do you think the next few years will bring, especially post-coronavirus?
Rachel, I just don't know. I only know what I'm going to do with it. And my plan is to make teaching online as intimate and as meaningful as I possibly can, because I know that's where it's going to have to be for a while. Glow is about to start live streaming, so I'm really, really looking forward to being back in touch with my community on a weekly basis, at least a couple times a month, and to hone our skills at creating deep meaning. To It's kind of doing what I do all the time on Zoom, which is say as much as possible in as few words. You know, you don't want to take a yoga class where somebody's talking all the time. And to create really potent space online. I think that's our job. I think that's how, that's how the scene is changing, and that is who will, I don't mean prevail as in prevail over. I mean prevail as in really serve. That who will really serve will be the folks who are able to shut their mouths and just create good, meaningful space. Means as a yoga teacher, if you're watching this, you must be in your own practice. In order to do that online, you have to be in your own practice. You can only do this meaning making, this creation of deep, potent space with very few words. Like, don't try and share every single thing that you know in one class. Try and only communicate the meaning that you're trying to communicate in that day, in that class, in that hour, whatever it is. That's what I would say.
I think that answered Christine's question at the
One
same.
quality that really creates intimate connection virtually from Christine. I actually think it's just that you have your own practice, because I'm in my own practice all the time. When I get on the screen, and whether this is like recording at the Glow Studios, like I used to do in California, or here, speaking live, which I'm actually teaching on Saturday this weekend, Sacred Saturday, 12 noon Eastern, I believe. Because I have my own practice, when I sit down to practice, you in your virtual space and at home, in my practice space here, we feel a connection because I'm in my body, in my practice. I'm not like running around doing 4,000 other things and then coming to like try and teach you yoga class and just say a bunch of words and hope to convey.
Yeah.
I think that's critical. That your own practice, Christine, is front and center. That will create intimate connection virtually. And again, it's not through words that we can create intimacy. So figure out what other than words you can use to create that intimacy, because I don't say much when I'm teaching.
No, you don't. And that's one of the reasons why I love your classes.
Like, I just can't. I want to take a class. I go to take classes all the time on various different platforms, and I just can't hang when a teacher is telling me every single thing he knows,
Yeah.
filling every single space with words. It just like takes me out of my body. If I want you to be in your body, I have to shut up so that you can feel what I said like a minute and a half ago reverberating in your physical space.
Yeah. So true. I want to honor your time. There are a few
Thank
more
you.
questions, but I really want to honor your time. So I thank you very much for
What a
being with us.
pleasure. What a pleasure. I wish I could stay. I have a podcast for which I'm being interviewed at 1 o'clock, which is 3 o'clock your time. And I don't love jumping in there from one thing to another. Like now I'll just go sit for a moment, close my eyes and shut my mouth.
Paying attention to.
I just need to shut up for a minute, and then I can, then I can go on. Duda, I knew I recognized your name. You're thanking me for simplify. That's great. Oh my God. changing his dynamic with money, work, and self-esteem. That is such a pleasure. Duda, feel free to email me if you want to add. I'm super grateful. I knew I recognized your name. Info@elenabrower.com. Anytime, any questions you have on the, of course, on the course. We're going to launch it again, I think, in November. And before then, I'm going to do, I think starting in September, October, I finally feel, speaking of bravery, brave enough to do a business mentorship monthly. I always resisted monthly. Oh my God, I don't want to have that thing over my head. And now I'm like, you know what? I have so much to give, and my team benefits completely. I'll give it to them for free. But I want to be able to mentor lots of people from lots of different businesses, other teams, other ways of seeing. And I know that I can enhance things for folks. And, now I feel like I'm confident enough and I'm old enough that I could do that without doubt. So that will come too.
Great.
And like not expensive.
Only
Very,
reflects your generosity once again. So
I don't know. I don't think that we can take the money. We can't take the money with us, obviously, when we die. And I think generosity is definitely something to practice for sure. But the last thing I'll say is, as much as we can, help someone else see themselves more clearly the way we see each other. That's kind of the best service. We can take that to our grave. I get to take that with me. That's priceless. So, whatever. I don't want to charge people a lot of money. I don't want to make things prohibitive. I want to give people access to the huge, vast conglomeration of understandings that I've amassed. And I can't, I don't want to hoard the information. I just got to give it away. I got to get it out of here so that I can take more in, you know?
right.
That's, that's it.
Well, you take your moment of stillness before your next podcast. Thank you so, so much. And thank you all for joining us today. The recording will be sent out to you soon, and you can share that with your friends, of course, if you like. So thank you all. Have a great rest of your day. Happy weekend.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Bianca. I see your note. Thank you. Thank you, guys.